Okay, we're going to take a quick look at prompting tips for talking to Rill using Claude Desktop or any chat client that you can configure to use an MCP server. If you don't have Claude set up yet, we've got a separate short video on how to do that. Super quick, super easy. And first of all, it's good to prompt Claude specifically to use Rill. So Claude is pretty good at identifying when a tool would be useful to use, but it's still a good idea to prompt it to do so. Makes it a little bit more reliable. And the first thing it's going to do then is speak to Rill and get a list of what metrics views are available. It's going to ask for the dimensions and measures, the definitions of the fields that are available to it. And it will also probably ask soon for the time range that's available of the data. And then once it's got that set up, it'll have this. It only needs to do it once for the conversation. Now has that in memory, and it's asking the specific query it needs to do to get the biggest advertisers over the last few days. And there it is, listing them out. So that's a super useful fast response of just doing the breakdown. I didn't have to know where to navigate to or anything like that. Claude has basically done that navigation for me. And it'll also sometimes pick up on things like, say, the industry category we can see of the data there. That's not something that's actually in the data. That's because it's a language model. It's been trained on the internet and it's aware of the names of the pharmaceutical companies. So you'll occasionally get a little bit of extra information coming back that's nice for your exploration. Now, the second thing to bear in mind is that it's not the same as using a BI tool where you've got drop-down lists of metrics and dimensions. It's more like having a conversation with a person. Large language models basically love role play. To give you a silly example of that, let's talk like a pirate. So, ahar matey, let's be having some data metrics. Now, we're not, or at least I hope we're not, talking like pirates every day at work, but Claude is instantly going to pick up on that context and it will play it back to me. So, ahoy there, matey. You know, it's picking up on what I'm saying. Now, the important point here is I've also asked in analytical terms a vague question. I've just said, give me some data metrics about advertisers. Language models are trained to be super helpful. So it's essentially say, oh, you asked for some metrics, here are some metrics. You know, it's a vague question and it essentially gets a vague answer. You want to think more in terms of speaking to a colleague at work, where probably you're going to ask your questions with a bit of context and a bit of precision to them. So let's ask a slightly different question. So no need to talk like a pirate, thanks. But I'm interested in the click-through rate across our channels. I want to know how the overall rate has been performing. I want to know how it's performing if you break it down by app. If we have a more precise question, it's going to translate that into a more precise data query, and we're going to get better results out of the semantic layer as a result. So it's going through a process. It might ask multiple queries, so it might ask a question that gets no results. Maybe it's all been filtered out. It might decide to do additional drill down into the data, and this is part of the back and forth. So it's picking up on the fact that we've had a downward trend, it's saying, in the click-through rate, and it's giving a breakdown by apps and also by apps and sites, which is a separate dimension in our metrics view. So it's making an intelligent decision based on the context that I've given it of multiple queries it can run, which might bring back a richer answer than just running a single query. So that's pretty cool. Now, unlike working with a BI tool, you might not always go in knowing exactly what you're going to ask. You might look at the list of dimensions and measures and let what's already there kind of prompt you on where to go, or at least where to get started. And the Claude equivalent of that, the chat equivalent of that, is just to ask, well, what fields can I use to break down the click-through rate? What are the most relevant fields? And the cool thing about working with a language model is the language models, it's kind of been trained on the entire internet. So it actually has a lot of industry knowledge baked in. And that can lead it to be able to provide you with advice. So you can just ask in the sense of what is available. In a certain sense, this is just like a menu of options that I would have if I was working with a dashboarding tool, for instance. But it's also putting a bit of context around it. The metrics layer doesn't actually group the fields together the way they have just been in this list here. So you don't just ask it questions with the aim to get the click-through rate is X% over the past week. You can also ask it if you like broader meta questions. So that combination of prompt it to use Rill, speak to it like you're speaking to a colleague, provide lots of context, ask reasonably precise questions, you'll get better results back, and you can ask it for advice and general purpose information because it actually has a lot of industry knowledge. That combination of tips is probably going to get you off to a pretty good start. There's one other tip that we actually cover in a separate video, which is Claude has a thing called styles. So you can give it some upfront instructions to work with Rill, and some neat tricks there for data visualization and for explore links. So do watch that video. Let me give you a little teaser. I'll show you an old chat, which I did with the Claude style switched on. And you can see that instead of just textual information, it's also baking in a little data visualization into its text, just using characters and spark lines. So that's quite neat, makes it a bit more easy to grasp, I think, at a glance. And also it's created a link here for me. So this is looking at the video completion rate trends in pharma. If I click on that link and navigate to Rill, it's showing, well, there's the video completion rate and a couple of other video metrics. And it's filtered the advertiser names according to industry. And it's given me a link so that I can go into Rill. And if I wanted to, drill down into what looks like an interesting time range, or if I want a more detailed tabular view of the data, I can go straight into Rill and start interacting with it there. So powerful graphical data exploration, if you like, in Rill, in parallel to just a natural language conversation in Claude, and you can link back from one to the other. We're really excited about the combination of AI for BI. We've got all sorts of things we're planning to do. We can't wait to show them to you. But in the meantime, this is really easy and simple to get set up. Please do. And let us know what you find to be the best patterns, the most interesting kind of questions to ask. We're really interested to hear your feedback. Comment below or get in touch with your Rill account team and have fun.